Okay, as you can see, the sixth problem gives you y equals x squared and asks for the change in the value of, well, it asks you for the rate of change of y with respect to x, but it asks you for the change in the value of x squared from x value x to x value x plus delta x. Okay, so what's the change in the y value if y equals x squared? So maybe I should write y equals x squared here. X to delta x. So people had trouble answering this question, but it's very closely related to what we did last time, the 2 points on the graph. Okay, the delta y is the rise of the graph, and remember the graph coordinates of the points were x squared, and x plus delta x, quantity x plus delta x squared. So the change in y as we move from x to x plus delta x is what? Well, what are the y values that correspond to x and x plus delta x according to this function? Well, if we have x, then we have y equals x squared. Okay, that's one y value. If we have x plus delta x, then the value is going to be x plus delta x, quantity squared. So y changes from x squared to x plus delta x squared as x changes from x to x plus delta x. So the delta y, the change in y, and we mentioned, okay, I said in class, I think, well, if we change from 30 to 70, what's the change? And people said 30. I said, how did you get that? And I said, well, we subtracted the 40 from the 70. So you subtracted the earlier from the later to get the change. Well, this is the earlier, this is the later. We're going to subtract the earlier from the later to get the change. So delta y is this minus this. Okay? So the average rate of change of y with respect to x is the change in y divided by the change in x, which is x plus delta x, quantity squared minus x squared over delta x. Same thing we did last time. And if we want to get dy dx, I'm just going to kind of add that in. That's going to be the limit as delta x goes to 0 of your delta y over delta x. And of course, this is a quantity that you simplified and then took the limit of as delta x goes to 0. And just as before, we would get 2x.